Welcome to our video on astrological gardening, new moon in Taurus, horoscope with astrology, planetary archangels, and zodiac angels to magically help your urban or suburban garden and or agricultural project accomplish success so you can feed your family while creating a healthy community environment. As we continue to enter into the grand solar minimum, it becomes more and more important to be able to harvest our food from God's own plentiful earth. Using astrology to increase yield from crops is essential. First, our disclaimer. Watching this video or reading the document attached to it is an act of spiritual willpower, and any such action is considered magic. High magic should be used with all mindfulness since powerful forces of manifestation are unleashed. This is intended exclusively for entertainment purposes. I'm Pastor Rosemary, the Astrology Angel. I'm a Rosicrucian seer, biblical astrologer, Christian psychic, and Gnostic mystic, and this is a Readings by Rosemary angelic transmission. A new moon in the sign of Taurus the Bull gives an occasion for opportunity predominantly regarding fresh supplies of revenue and new jobs. Pragmatic careers become available, as do real estate and precious metals investment deals when Luna conceals her light during this natural second house trait, establishing qualities of money and possessions. Such opportunities are abundant, especially while Luna conceals her moonlight for the phase of this natural second house transit, setting into motion aspects of money and possessions. During this lunar phase in the sign of Taurus, it is profitable to hide personal plans so that the impetus to carry goals to completion is allowed, to build up and to keep desires for success alive, particularly in the natural second house areas that have to do with what rewards have been acquired in life. Taurus has a luxurious and romantic approach to life, with the I have being the divine tone of the bull, and therefore Luna's dark phase gives this dreamy zodiac sign opportunities to accumulate lots of creature comforts. Oftentimes, when it comes to increasing personal experiences found through attaining wonderful home, garden, and office environments, that is when this is really going to be a time which can be very favorable for you. Now, well-intended individuals find ways to obtain their financial goals through steadfast application of their talents as Luna now begins to wax. Set your sights on the next turn of events throughout this phase when lavish material gain is straightforward and a probable outcome. Taurus new moon affords a chance to plant edible yields with which to feed humans as well as cattle and other grazing animals. New moon in Taurus is a good phase for home gardeners or farmers when it comes to going after the gusto and really getting your piece of the pie and your piece of the good life. It's also a beneficial lunar cycle in which to begin projects that will really help plant crops suitable for projects or business ventures, leading to an ability to engage in buying and selling produce in regards to local farmers markets. Now, planting hearty crops, really substantial and healthy crops, is an essential way to get an excellent yield, and a good way to prepare for having a comfortable future as natural second house attributes of money and possessions are visited during a new moon phase in the sign of Taurus, the bull. Now, gardeners, both urban and suburban gardeners and farmers are often finding great joy, and this is going to come from really being able to focus on their various yields, primarily since cultivating produce requires a plentiful amount of attention to major weather events. Mindful preparation, planning ahead, and looking at what outcome one is striving to achieve, as well as foreknowledge about earth changes. As we continue to enter into the little ice age, similar to the Maunder minimum, it's called the Maunder minimum, that lasted 70 years, from the mid-1600s to the early 1700s. Now, keep in mind that some wild weather events and colder temperatures are to be expected, which will affect crops. These crops will be affected. It's important to understand how crops and societies are affected by grand solar minima in general. Now, Valentina Zarkova is a mathematics professor in the UK at Northumbria University, and she has predicted that the sun's activity will decrease by 60% in the 2030s, which will be similar to the little ice age that occurred during the Maunder minimum. Watchfulness and attentiveness to nature's larger cycles within planetary, lunar, and solar positions in the heavens, astrological houses, and seasonal considerations are all necessary factors regarding essential cultivation of any chosen crops, looking forward to thriving yields. Now, knowledge about not just how, but what crops to plant, grow, harvest, and store for the benefit of self and others in one's neighborhood or community is necessary. First-class choices give way to a cornucopia of bountiful harvesting when under the care and watchful eye of the astrological gardener or farmer. This is an occasion in which to interact with elementals, especially the gnomes of earth, because Taurus the bull is a fixed earth sign, communicating with the undines of water, salamanders of fire, sylphs of air, and the gnomes of earth, coming into effect with a copious portion of ambition, all working together towards producing a vigorous crop and an abundant yield. So remember, Taurus is going to have the elementals of the gnomes of earth because it's fixed earth or air of earth. Okay? And in the tarot deck, it's the prince of pentacles that will give you that air of fire aspect and that Taurus aspect. Now, generally speaking, communicating with the moon during a new moon lunar phase while making sure to use endowments learned in regards to astrological planting and harvesting is of considerable value at this time. Bring a surplus of riches and a treasure of wealth into your family and community by sowing seeds and reaping crops which will produce a plentiful quality of yield for food provisions. Such harvests can be shared communally within extended family circles and neighborhoods in a like manner, as well as varietal yields that are also able to be sold at local farmers markets. These concepts are especially important during a grand solar minimum, such as the one in which we now find ourselves. Generally, a new moon with its increasing moonlight is great for planting produce such as cruciferous vegetables, asparagus, lettuce, spinach, and those annuals with the leaves growing above the ground with the seeds outside the crop. Cucumbers are an exception to this rule, however, since they have their seeds are inside the produce. Okay, now specifically, when Luna visits the zodiac sign of Taurus the bull, there will be moon phases that are good for planting yields of endive, romaine lettuce, watercress, and beet greens. So we're going to put this sign up for you here, which has to do with the all the colors that go with each of the signs of the zodiac according to the Rosicrucian style. And for the sign of Taurus, the bull, it's in the natural second house, Aries being first, 1, 2. Okay, so we have Taurus, the bull here. We have the new moon in the sign of Taurus, the bull. Now, again, it's endive, romaine lettuce, watercress, and beet greens. Now, there will also be some phases excellent for relocating crops and cycles suburb for planting potatoes, ginger, radishes, beets, onions, and yes, also turnips. There will also be lunar phases in Taurus, especially important during a grand solar minimum or during all grand solar minima when cold weather crops such as Swiss chard, because it's happened before, lettuce, kale, spinach, carrots, coriander, daikon, and garlic will be good selections for planting. We will now discuss these specific moon cycles. During a new moon in Taurus, the bull plant cabbage, choy sum, Brussels sprouts, red cabbage, endive, iceberg lettuce, also spinach, and radicchio. Now keep in mind that Taurus is a feminine sign being yin in nature, an earth sign, moist and unrefined, affording feminine qualities of a fruitfulness and an organicness and therefore having a vigorous and healing character. Taurus is a designation of the bull, and on the astrological wheel it has this designation of the bull due to its placement on the astrological and agricultural seasonal wheel, where it is considered stubborn, persistent though, and headstrong, possessing an impulsive manner. Now, since Taurus is akin to the natural second house of money and possessions, this is a helpful occasion to consider one's own concerns and priorities when it comes to preparedness and food production. Also, land cultivation, especially when establishing family, neighborhood, and community edible gardening or farming projects. Normally, during a new moon lunar cycle, in general, urban and suburban gardeners will prevail, gaining a green thumbs up by planting parsley, celery, broccoli, cabbage, oats, quinoa, millet, wheat, flaxseed, rye, spinach, endive, lettuce, corn, and rice, to name just a few familiar edibles to utilize annuals which flourish above the ground. Crops with seeds developed on the outside are best at this portion of Luna's phases. A new moon is the beginning of a waxing moon from the new moon to the full moon portion of a lunar cycle. Water in the earth will be pulled up by Luna just like her sway over ocean tides. Now, although 24 to 48 hours before a full moon is the phase which provides an even larger gravitational effect, a new moon makes abundant water available during this phase for growth. Now, specifically speaking, during a new moon in the sign of Taurus the Bull, focus upon planting endive, romaine lettuce, spinach, cabbage, and also cilantro. An urban or suburban gardener ought to wait until a second quarter waxing moon phase in Taurus to plant edible vine crops such as zucchini and squash. Now, please note that 24 to 48 hours before a full moon in the sign of Taurus the Bull, when Luna is waxing strongly, is a beneficial time to plant ginger, fennel, and turmeric. You will also, though, have to wait for a full moon in Taurus for a good occasion to plant carrots, beets, sweet potatoes, and rhubarb. Now, wait for a mature third quarter or fourth quarter waning moon phase in Taurus to cure and dry produce for storage, cultivate, or turn over soil. Now, the planetary archangel Gabriel rules over Luna, although on a new moon expressing receptivity. Now, the planetary archangel Gabriel, this is the Merkaba field, Mer meaning rotating fields of light, Ka meaning spirit, and Ba meaning soul. Merkaba or Merkaba. Tomato, tomato, Merkaba, Merkaba, potato, potato, Kabbalah, and Kabbalah. So the Merkaba field is for the water signs, is going to have the association for the basic elemental archangel of water, who is the archangel, the guardian angel of the water signs, Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel. Okay, and this is Archangel Gabriel's Merkaba field in a representation using tetrahedrons. So now, for the water signs, Gabriel is the elemental archangel, but Gabriel is also the planetary archangel, the planetary archangel of the moon, and that's why this water sigil always comes up during that time. In the Sephir of Yesod, which means foundation, which is associated with the moon and with water and the Kabbalah, and that Sephirah, you're going to find the Archangel Gabriel and the moon. So that is some of the correspondences for Kabbalistic teachings. Okay, so whenever you learn any kind of magic, whether you're learning simple kinds of magic, practical magic, or complicated kinds of ceremonial magic, basically you're dealing with these associations. Okay, and they all come from Kabbalah. They all come from Kabbalah, all of them, whether you're spelling with a K or a Q or a C. Okay, now Taurus, the bull, is a Venusian sign in its manner and in its nature, with Venus, the planet Venus, being Taurus the bull's ruler, the ruling planet. Now, therefore, planetary influences of Archangel Anael of Venus hold sway during a new moon in Taurus. Now, the elemental archangel of Earth, being Uriel, is associated with this fixed Earth sign of Taurus the bull. So this is the Merkaba field for all of the Earth signs, and so the archangel Uriel, who resides over all of the Earth signs, this is Archangel Uriel's Merkaba field, when you're talking about the celestial coordinates and the hexagram. Hexagrams when the lines are converging. Hexagon is when the lines are out, when when they're not intersecting. When they're intersecting, it's a hexagram or a polygram or a polygon when they're not intersecting. So this is like a three-dimensional Star of David, and it has very you've seen these symbols before. You've seen this, I think, sometimes in some movies. And this is from the three-dimensional Star of David. Okay? Very nice. And my friend David, who's a psychic, who I used to work with when we did psychic readings and at psychic fairs and that kind of thing together, he made these for me. They're very nice, and I cherish them. Okay, so that's for Uriel, for all of the earth signs, of which Taurus is fixed earth. All right, now Venus, that's the Archangel Anael. Now, since Venus is the ruler over the fixed earth sign in the zodiac of Taurus, the bull, being the nighttime abode of this love goddess planet, remember that Taurus is heir of earth, the Prince of Pentacles. Okay, and in some decks it might be a Knight of Pentacles. It's the earth, it's the air position of earth. Now, and therefore, it is important to invoke. You call into oneself, take on a God form. That's what all actors and actresses and musicians do. They take on a God form. To invoke into one's sacred circle, or to call upon is to evoke, just to call them. To call upon the Venusian zodiacal facet known as the attribute of God, the morning star. And that is found in the book of Revelation, chapter 22, verse 16, in the Douay-Rheims Bible. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things in the churches. I am the root and stock of David, the bright and morning star. Okay, now, the Zodiac Angel Asmodel rules over Taurus, the bull astrology sign. Asmodel. Now, speaking of the new moon, we turn to Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 23 in the Webster Bible translation. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. Because it is some rabbis, my friends who go to the temple, who are Jewish, and had told me, and I had visited there many times, because the music is wonderful, and they had told me that my friends had told me that some rabbis consider the new moon is Rosh Chodesh, and some rabbis think that a long time ago the Sabbath was the full moon. And this verse might key you in on that. Again, Isaiah 66:23, Webster Bible translation, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. So this would make one think that that's true. So I think that this verse would really kind of drive that home. Okay, information found in this document is based on the oral tradition known as Kabbalah, taught to me by Rosicrucian clergy when I was but a young girl, the facts of which I've committed to memory. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again.